Can the left build their own Joe Rogan? I see this clip from the Majority Report. Kyle Kulinski and Emma Vigeland talking about Joe Rogan, why Kyle Kulinski is going to war with Joe Rogan and everything he has, all of the issues he has with the man. And in it, Emma Vigeland says that she went on my show with the intention of never getting invited back. Emma, you are always invited to come on this show. It's a laugh riot, and we enjoy having you. Because when these liberals come on these shows, their ideas fall apart, and we're totally here for it. In this viral clip, Kyle Kulinski basically says that Joe Rogan used to nod along with the leftist things he was saying, and then you'd have Ben Shapiro on and nod along with him as well, because Joe Rogan's a moderate. But he's like, it makes me look like a fool because he was just lying the whole time. They claim that Joe Rogan's simply laundering propaganda. I got news for you guys. Perhaps you are wrong. If everywhere you go, you smell dog poop, perhaps you should look at your boot. But let me lay into these liberal pundits who, Kyle, we've invited you on the show numerous times. You won't do it. Now, I often am very respectful when I talk to these people, and I say, I don't mind. I'm not going to cry when Hassan Piker refuses to come on the show, and he does. Or when Kyle Kulinski says, sure, maybe, but then doesn't, or the same thing with David Pakman. We've been trying to get these people in here forever. I don't complain because they host their own shows. People ask me to do their shows all the time, and I just can't do it. I do host a show with guests, and we do debates on the culture war, so we've created a space here where we can do it. But that doesn't mean Kyle Kulinski owes me anything. And if he's going to be hosting his own show and can't travel, I get it. I respect it. Now, that being said, there are a lot of conservative personalities, even big names, who will forego going on their shows to periodically come on Timcast IRL. So I don't think it's all that great of an excuse, but I will be nice. Let's play this clip, and then we'll debunk and criticize the left's lies and their criticisms of Joe Rogan.
Then you're fake independent media. You're not real independent media. And I'm now going to war because what we saw is a lot of these people like Joe Rogan, you know, I was there. I was on his show 4 or 5 times. He would sit there and nod in agreement when I would make anti-Trump arguments and arguments in favor of a left-wing worldview. Then 3 weeks later, Ben Shapiro would come on and say the exact opposite of me on every issue, and he would nod along in agreement.
And see, let me just start by debunking this. Certainly, if you make an argument to Joe and you say, actually, I think, we should have universal basic income for these reasons, he can go, oh, yeah, that's interesting. You know, that makes a lot of sense. Then Ben Shapiro can come on and say, well, I certainly don't agree with having a universal basic income because, I mean, first of all, you can't spend other people's money. And then Joe will be like, that's a good point, too. Like, who's going to do the labor? Joe can entertain the ideas and explain why good points are being made. He's a moderate. I'll tell you this. Famously, Dave Rubin went on Joe Rogan's show and said something about building regulation. And Joe was like, what are you talking about? When Joe thinks that something doesn't make sense or there's not a good argument, he does challenge it. So let's not pretend it's not the case.
Right. And so at some point, you got to call a spade a spade. You're not independent media, and you're clearly just a vibes-based voter, right? You cocooned yourself in this right-wing echo chamber where you got right-leaning UFC people and right-leaning comedians, and Dana White, his boss, is super right-wing and loves MAGA. He put himself in this echo chamber. COVID helped to break his brain.
Cope harder, Kyle. Have you ever stopped to ask yourself why RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, Joe Rogan, Tim Pool, Dave Rubin, I mean, come on, the list goes on and on of all of the people who have left the left because the left went nuts. Elon Musk, Colin Wright, need I say more? Now, don't get me started on the classical liberal types who are too scared to say they left the left, whatever. You can leave the left and still be a coward. That's fine. But these people can't seem to get it through their skulls. Perhaps the skulls are too thick. There's a reason why people are saying the left has gone nuts. And it's not that they're trapped in a right-wing echo chamber. You guys are in a cult is the problem. You can't seem to fathom that all of these people recognizing similar things. Emma Vigeland came on my show, The Culture War, and defended adult graphic materials for children. Come on, nobody agrees with that. Lance from the Surfs came on and said a woman should be allowed to get an abortion whenever she wants. And I said, even at 9 months, like whenever, it's her choice. And I said, can she do meth? And he goes, no, because that would intentionally kill the baby. What? You see, it's moments like that where the left is exposed for having miserable ideas. Now, don't get me wrong. The weird thing is, I'm still largely a liberal guy myself. That's right. I've long said I'm probably like a traditional or social liberal, meaning I actually do think there can be successful government programs and there can be successful welfare programs. And I think there needs to be regulation. I just think we're well overregulated and our programs are broken and we need to weed out corruption. But these people act like their ideas are unique to them, but they're so wrapped up in their cult, they can't listen to anybody else. So I go on Piers Morgan and this woman says something deranged. This lady goes, Tim Pool's a COVID denier who then got COVID and sought ivermectin, which is absolutely 100% false. But guess what? You knew that because you watched the show. And no, I never denied COVID. I did get COVID. I rejected ivermectin. I told Joe Rogan I didn't think it did anything. And I have to be honest, I still don't think it does. I'm not a doctor, okay? I talked to a doctor. Joe responded, no, it's a protease inhibitor. And that stops the virus. And I'm like, I think it's largely that the people who were taking it were being cured of their parasites and worms in these other countries. So it did look like it was having a profound effect on COVID. That seems to make more sense to me. Joe argued with me about it. But this guy's lying. Kyle, you are in a cult.
And then look at that. He goes full MAGA. And you know what? That makes me look like a jackass because I was the one going in there, taking him at face value, acting kind, holding his hand and walking him through it like he was a toddler on these topics. And then, wow, in retrospect, would you look at that?
Goodbye,
he completely flipped. I mean, we were defending him, unfortunately, way too late, right? When people were already on to, I don't know, man, you're saying a little bit more right-wing things here. And we would be like, well, no, look, here's a compilation of all the times Joe Rogan said base things. He argued for universal health care. He argued for free college. He argued for higher minimum wage and this good thing. And I would show that compilation and go, see, I don't know what you guys are talking about. But guess what? When you decide I'm going to endorse Donald Trump after he lied to your face relentlessly for the entire podcast, telling brazen lies, then I'm sorry, all the charity is gone, all the sympathy is gone, and I have to come to a different conclusion now. My conclusion of you could hold these people's hands and walk them through it and talk.
I'm going to pause real quick and point this out. He said nothing. You know, I'm looking for substance. What did Trump lie about? Wow, what did Joe Rogan get wrong? You said that he was saying right-wing things. So what? I don't care if someone says something right-wing. The Krasensteins are posting videos of them working out. I think it was Ed. I think it was Ed Krasenstein. Overly liberal guys. I am not a fan of these guys. But one of the brothers posts a video of him working out, and the dude is ripped. He is working out. It is excellent. It is meritocratic. I deeply respect it. And working out is right-wing, I guess. No, I don't care. If the Krasen bros come out and say Donald Trump is bad and he's a rapist and all that, I'm going to say that's not true. You're lying and you're misrepresenting the facts. If they come out and then say you should eat right and work out and here are some tips, I say that's really awesome, guys. I agree. What game is this where it's like, no, they're liberals, so they're always wrong no matter what? I'm not living in that world. Kyle, give me some statements. Give me some substance.
To them like they're reasonable and work it out. It just didn't work. It just didn't work. And that's what,
yeah, homie, you lost the argument is the problem, and now you're whinging about it and getting mad at Joe.
I see a much more bold, aggressive style out of me where I'm like, fuck these people and the horse they rode in on, because if what I did before didn't work, okay, I got to try a different approach now.
Oh, please, dude. It's called being wrong. You were wrong. Imagine this reality where these liberals are outright saying, I was wrong, so guess I got to be a dick. Or you could just be like, am I wrong about this? Famously, Jordan Peterson said this, one of my favorite Jordan Peterson moments, when he is asked about civil rights law and whether or not a business can deny certain services based on gender. And he's like, they shouldn't be able to do that. And then the comedian goes, but what about if they're black? And he goes, well, you know, they shouldn't discriminate for someone. And then he gets challenged on it. And he goes, well, you know, I guess I was wrong about that. That's it. You know, see through your own ego, dude. Maybe you could say, am I missing something that the popular vote count that the majority of people in this country are seeing? Is there something I'm not seeing?
So if it's just call these people the fucking frauds they are, well, then guess what? We're going to call them the frauds that they are.
But don't be like hard on yourself in that way. I mean, Bernie Sanders did the same thing where he was trying to go there. And I thought at the point Rogan could be reasoned with in that way. And his audience, it was important to try to communicate with them. Like, the thing is like, go on all these platforms. It's like why I went on Tim Pool, but I'm going to go there in a way where I'm not going to try to get invited back.
That's not possible, ma'am. You will always be invited to my show because you make my audience laugh, and we want to expose your bad ideas and call them out. I have literally no problem whatsoever agreeing with a liberal if they say something correct. If Emma Vigeland came here, sat in this chair and said, it's important to eat a healthy diet and exercise, I'd say, I completely agree. That's fantastic. She comes on the show and she says, banning these books in schools is censorship. And I'm like, you're damn right it is. And I'm for it. You're for censorship? Yes. Censor the materials of adult graphic material for kids. What don't you understand about that? But lady, dude, Kyle, Emma, you can come on this show whenever you want. The bigger question is, how come you don't? Yo, I have a list of all the liberals who are terrified little cowards who don't want to come on the show. Meanwhile, every right-winger in the world and post-liberal are banging on the door saying, when do you have time for me? It is rather exhausting, to be honest, when I have people showing up at the gate being like, you need to talk to me, please. It's my destiny. And I'm like, this guy's crazy. Get out of here. We have a list of people who are disaffected liberal, moderate, centrist types and conservatives who are 100% like, let me know what dates you have available. And then we have a list of liberals. This is not an exaggeration. I have a list of all the liberals that we have to reach out to and say, please come on the show. And they all respond with, I don't know, maybe we can't, or they want money. Amazing.
Like, I'm going to go there and try to.
Right. Adversarial.
Right. At this point, specifically with explicitly right-wing outlets, you got to go in there and you've got to eat their lunch, because the only time that leftists get reinvited to these places is if you validate everything that they say. Right. And then that creates...
That's weird. We invited Sam Cedar on the show specifically and explicitly because he lied about my position, or he was wrong about my position on the death penalty. And so I said, come on the show. If you agree with me, why would I want that? These people are fake. They are frauds. You guys are frauds. I'm going to say it right now. Both of you come on the show together. The problem is you don't do it. You never do it. We've invited Kyle over and over again. He won't do it. Emma's been invited on. She's welcome back whenever she wants. This is a lie, they say, because their audiences are in a cult, and the only way they can maintain it is by acting like they're not the cult. It's everybody else who's the cult.
It's a perverse incentive for those leftist communicators as well, because there's so much more money on that side of the equation.
She says, you've got to come and eat our lunch. Otherwise, we won't invite you back. What? Come on the show. It's remarkable, isn't it? You know, it's funny because there are things that are true and there are things that are not true. And then there's moral worldviews and opinions. I really don't care about the latter. I mean, like, they exist. But I know that a lot of people who are pro-life watch this show, and I'm not particularly pro-life. I don't like saying pro-choice because the Democrats have gone full abortion, and I think that's wrong. But the moderate here, you know, I'm fairly moderate, which puts me largely in the right camp as they describe it. And whatever, fine. The left is psychotic. But I had a conversation with Sam Cedar where I was like, actually, I think we need more regulation in a lot of areas. And I do think we need sunset clauses on a lot of regulation. Notably, like, as it pertains to businesses and how you file and things like this. Like, it needs to be easy to start a business without pollutants and chemicals. Largely, though, when we're talking about regulation, we're talking about chemicals in the water and stuff. I think that context is probably important to get in there. But I have no problem saying, like, yeah, I think we should tax the rich. I agree with Steve Bannon on this. Actually, I think Steve goes a little bit harder than I do on taxing the rich. I just think the problem is our tax system is corrupt. I don't like the idea that because corrupt people pervert a system, we get rid of some system, you know, related to it. So, for example, I'm pro-gay marriage. I'm more like gay marriage neutral. Like, I literally don't care. You know, I don't really consider it marriage because marriage is largely a religious institution. Call it civil unions, call it whatever you want. If there's a legal system by which they allow it, fine. But just because they're trying to put it in schools, see, this is where I am as an old school liberal, saying, yeah, I don't care if two people in their house doing whatever it is they're doing, like we're not going to go in there, right? But now they're trying to play the game of, we got to bring it in schools, we got to give these books to kids. I'm like, no, that crosses the line. What we have now is conservatives saying, see, we warned you that would happen. And I'm like, yeah, I agree with you. You did, and it did happen. Okay, so we get rid of that. Let you know, Dave Rubin have his family. I know a lot of conservatives don't agree with it, and there's arguments about marriage, moms, dads, or whatever. But, well, I suppose I should say surrogacy is a totally different argument from gay marriage. But let two people live their lives and have their homes and just say, you cannot be doing this in schools. And that's it. Like, let there be the line. But I do respect the argument from conservatives right now that the left will take a mile. So I don't know how you answered that one. And that's why the right ends up winning a lot of these arguments. Because if a conservative comes to me and says, Tim, look, we tried it your way and look what it got us, I go, fair point. Like, dude, this stuff's like it's not just degeneracy. The child predation and the graphic materials have gone so far that you are seeing a lot of people recoil the other direction. And it's the left's fault for refusing to moderate. But I'll say it again to these people. You live in a crackpot reality and a cult. Take a look at this post from Reddit. What's the left's answer to Joe Rogan supposed to be? I don't know. Maybe it was Joe Rogan, but sure. Joe Rogan is the poster child for how the far right launders propaganda in the mainstream under the guise of just asking questions. The left doesn't need a Joe Rogan because we actually value facts and integrity, not cheap grifts aimed at pandering to insecure bros who can't tell the difference between free speech and hate speech. These people are not smart. Free speech. Let me tell you, my friends. Free speech literally is hate speech. That's the point. You don't need the phrase free speech if you cannot speak certain things. Free speech is specifically about saying things that people are offended by, lest you just call it regular speech within certain confines. But sure. Taylor Lorenz writes it up. The Democrats aren't going to have a Joe Rogan. Why? The conservative media landscape in the United States is exceptionally well-funded, meticulously constructed, and highly coordinated. Wealthy donors, PACs, and corporations with a vested interest in preserving or expanding conservative policies strategically invest in right-wing media channels and up-and-coming content creators. This creates a well-oiled pipeline for conservative influencers, young TikTokers, YouTubers, live streamers, blah, blah, blah. Organizations like Turning Point USA, PragerU, and the Daily Wire, and others receive millions from backers who view them as advertising for a broader conservative agenda. These media entities act as content creator incubators and spend extensively on outreach, production quality, and audience growth. The resources and near unlimited funds they receive allow conservative content creators to grow rapidly and spread their messages widely. They're going to mention that Ben Shapiro's Daily Wire was heavily funded by wealthy Republican donors, including the Wilkes brothers, Texas-based billionaires known for their oil and fracking fortune. Charlie Kirk receives millions from conservative mega donors. And the Koch network, right-wing content creators Benny Johnson, Tim Pool, Dave Rubin were getting paid $400 a month, at least $100,000 per video. That is incorrect. After accepting funding from a right-wing Russian influence operation, Johnson even allegedly negotiated a $100,000 signing bonus. Oh, good for you, Benny. Well, I will say we did have a contract agreement for licensing a program with Tenet Media, and I am upset by the outcome of where it is so far, but we shall see. But I will also stress that the bulk of all our viewership was completely outside of that, and Timcast Media never used any of those funds for any of its operations. So let's just make one thing clear. Not that they care. They're interested in lying to you. How did I get this company going? Well, by all means, you can mention Ben Shapiro and Daily Wire and Prager, whoever else got investment for whatever. I don't know. Fine, whatever. For me, I worked for, I went to Occupy Wall Street, film stuff. Then I got a job at Vice and film stuff, and they paid me a salary, which is not very high. And then I went to ABC, and they paid me a lot of money. And ABC News, Univision's joint venture. And then after 2 years left with several $100,000 saved, having worked at that corporate media job, producing content, and then started making YouTube videos where I was getting about like 8,000 to 10,000 views. Had a viral moment where I went to Sweden and covered a lot of the Sweden. We were doing a mini doc per day. It was really fun, vlogging. And it became a big viral trend where everybody was asking about it. And then I had about 60,000 followers after that, but got millions of views and made a good amount of money from doing that. And Carl Benjamin of Sargon of Akkad, as you know him, now the Lotus Eaters podcast, asked me to do a guest video for his channel, seeing that he appreciated my approach to journalism, was trying to be as correct as I could to inform people. That video bumped me over 100,000 subscribers. From that point, I actually started making money doing what I'm doing, and I'm eternally grateful. Carl is a good friend and a great dude with a great show, and you should watch Lotus Eaters. And I started making money. I launched a secondary channel, which started making money. I had about 280,000 subscribers between the channels when Joe Rogan took note of one of my videos because he had accidentally copyright claimed it. I think it was an automatic copyright claim pertaining to his interview with Jack Dorsey. I then responded to the video got a false claim, had DM'd Joe because he had followed me and said, hey, could you release this? Like, it took a couple $100 on my pocket. I guess he watched it. He called me. Long story short, he invited me on the show. We had a great show. He invited me back. I interviewed Jack Dorsey and Vijay Gadde of Twitter. leading to a massive explosion in followers, and I had over 1 million within a few months. Tremendous. Then in the beginning of 2020, we launched Timcast IRL. It exploded, and here we are today. All of that was organic growth and was built independently of me with no investors and nothing, and that's how I did it. Now, as for the tenant deal and the $100,000 per video, that's incorrect. The deal was largely, the show was broken up into multiple videos, licensing agreement. I have other licensing agreements. We've had other licensing agreements. There will be more licensing agreements. And we also do big sponsorships. What I will stress right now as to why I bring this up in context of all of this, the left is really bad at business. The independent left, like Kyle Kalinske and Sam Cedar, they are really bad at what they do. Not only are they wrong all the time, that's fine, and Kyle's wrong now, but they don't know how to make money. And that's probably why they're leftists, because if they actually knew how business is operated, they'd be like, well, those laws don't work. But let me give you the nitty gritty and lay it down for you very simply. Right now, we are looking at YouTube, which programmatic ads, meaning automatically generated by YouTube, can hit around $10 to $15 CPMs. That is, for every 1,000 views you get, you might get $15 if you're lucky. Now, if you have a premium channel, you can negotiate higher CPMs. So some channels can get way more. Sometimes, depending on the season, like December's really great, actually, because all these big marketing firms are dumping their budgets. You can get up to $20. That's a lot of money. $20 for 1,000 views. Now, you'd think you'd get more, but it really is about conversion and what people are willing to spend. As we enter the non-programmatic, we get into the host-read ad space. An individual like me on a video like this, let's just say, here I am looking at a video. Rachel Maddow's career is over, it's titled, with 382,000 views from last week. Viewership this month has been a little bit more sporadic, with some pretty high, some lower than normal, but that's the holiday season. We expect that. So if I'm going to have, let's just say 300,000 views, I can probably do, if we hit like, I don't know, like a $20 CPM, we could be looking at like $6,000 or more. We'll negotiate a little bit higher for one read, $6,000. Now, that's on the low end. If we negotiate a premium, as Timcast is a premium channel, what does that mean? Well, it means there are a lot of channels that can get you those views. A network will say, we've got 5 channels, each gets 50,000. We'll bundle those together and sell them at $15 because they're not big creators. Then a company comes along and says, actually, Tim Pool is very well known. His endorsement has extra weight, and it is on average the #1 live show on YouTube in primetime. If you want that space, you got a lot of competition. This drives up the rates, and we can negotiate things much higher than that. I will add on top of this. We launched castbrew.com, our own coffee company. I know that if I do my own promo and say, guys, we got a discount code right now over at castbrew.com, I know that we can typically make more than a $20 CPM. In fact, when we did one read for Step on Sneck and Find Out Booney's HQ skateboards, we brought in about $40,000 in revenue. So if an advertiser comes to me and says, I want you to read an ad, I say, okay, or I just read an ad for my own company and I can make $10,000 to $20,000. If you want to compete in this space, you have to compete with my own merchandise and products. And that's true for every other company. Daily Wire, for instance, they've got all of these different products they've launched. Mayflower Cigars reportedly did nearly $5 million in sales. So you go to Michael Knowles as an advertiser and say, we want in this space. And he says, I'll just sell my own cigars. You're not offering me enough money. What does that mean? It means when someone wants to come and license the whole show and advertising rights, and you average 200 to 250,000 views on that show, you're going to say, okay, well, look, on that show alone right now in the first year, we expect to pull in, I don't know, $15,000 to $30,000 in ad sales or direct sales through our own merchandise. Now, if we grow that show with segments and we're getting about 500,000 views within 3 months because the segment's on top of it plus the show, we could be looking at substantially more than that. You want to license a show for a set amount of time. That means you're taking away our opportunity for revenue growth 2 years down the line. Hence, Benny Johnson, Dave Rubin, Tim Pool all negotiated rather independently comparable deals. Could it be that perhaps lawyers and agents are the ones that set these numbers? Long story short, the left is miserable at running business. They have no idea what they're doing. They're getting angry that we are successful, and they're making up lies and screaming about it. And it's this myopic worldview and failure to recognize reality that results in people like Joe Rogan saying, these people are horrifyingly wrong. So, my friends, you know I love throwing those numbers out there and just letting everybody know, because the podcast industry is remarkably not transparent. They don't tell you how much ratings, what their ratings are. On YouTube, you can see it. Sometimes they're fake. On the audio side, nobody really knows. They don't release those numbers except to the advertisers, which makes it harder for advertisers to negotiate properly. I think it holds everybody back. So that's why I just outright say, here's what our numbers are. Here's what we typically sell for. So play ball. Advertiser came to me the other day. They offered us $5,000 for an ad read on Timcast IRL. I said, meh. If I just do a Casper promo, we make more than that. Plus, we build up our own intellectual property. Casper becomes worth more money with every read and every sell. Casper Coffee is nearing about $2 million in sales for the year. Thank you all so much. Not as big as Jeremy's coffee brand coffee, by the way. Shout out to Jeremy of the Quartering. But we get it. We in the independent space know how to make money, and the left does not. So let's play that game. Kyle, cry about it. You guys don't know what you're doing, but I will say the big machine is going to dump money on top of them, so fine. Good luck, I guess. I'm going to wrap it up there. Smash the like button. Share the show with everyone you know. Become a member over at timcast.com. Follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all in the next segment.